Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. It's your boy. So what's happening, everybody? I see the Debate Me channel in the chat. Thanks for showing up, DOG. I got my squad in the chat. Oh, we're already at 20 viewers, 20 live viewers. I appreciate you all showing up, and I appreciate Jackson Hinkle, Franco doing the live streams earlier today. Free up some space for you, boy. Um, so we have a couple different stories two stories really to talk about. Um, One of them I've been meaning to do a video about. I saw a couple like regulars to the channel, uh, uh, commenting that they want my take on this because they're getting a lot of bullshit from the other host and new media. So I'm gonna put my Superman cape on and I'm gonna save the day and provide some rational commentary on this shitty infrastructure bill. These two shitty infrastructure bills that are being negotiated in Congress right now. So that's going to be one of them, and I have some takes on everybody pushing this trash ass infrastructure bill and pretending like you know the left should be spending any type of political capital to pass this shitty bill. But anyway, I'll get into that when I talk about when I do that story. First story I'm gonna talk about is so there was just a vote in the House to there was a vote in the House to on whether or not they were going to approve $1 billion to Israel to fund their Iron Dome, and it passed. Of course, there was really no doubt that that was going to happen. It passed. Republicans voted for it. Democrats voted for it. The basically all the corporate corrupt politicians taking money from APAC politicians. I mean, they did their job and they served their masters on that one. But notably, AOC, who was originally a no vote on this, uh, she decided to after, there was actually a confrontation with Nancy Pelosi on the floor. They had the first vote. She voted no, and then by the time the second vote, like it was like a break like after the vote was counted, and then the second vote. But when after the first vote was counted, Nancy Pelosi went up to AOC and gave her a stern talking to, and basically told like I don't know what she said because there was obviously no audio. But on C-SPAN during the votes, basically all the time during C-SPAN, there's like a wide camera angle of the floor of the house, and in the bottom corner, it was actually some people online had pointed this out, but Jackson Hinkle just he did a live stream earlier where he pointed it out, and he talked about he showed that AOC was in the bottom of the corner of the screen. Nancy Pelosi comes up to her, starts fucking gesturing and speaking all how would you very it looked like she wasn't happy and she was giving AOC a stern talking to, and apparently that got AOC's mind right. She busted out crying, and then she changed the vote and she voted present. She voted present on whether or not we were going to give $1 billion to Israel to fund their Iron Dome. And so again, that's $1 billion of U.S. money allocated from Congress to give military equipment to a country doing a genocide. So, and let me clarify for some of you who might not be aware of what the Iron Dome program is. So, basically, it's like a missile defense system. We can have a whole conversation about whether, like, how effective they really are at. Whoa! Thank you, Radical Leftist Agenda, for the $20 donation. Give me 1 second, and I'll read whatever you wrote. But So the Iron Dome is basically a missile defense program that the U.S. built and has funded for Israel for it's been a while now, maybe like 15 years, or I know definitely during the entire Obama administration. Um, so it's a missile defense system, and what are they defending against? They're defending against Hamas rockets and rockets coming from Gaza and occupied Palestinian territory. And the reason why it is so objectionable to for our government to be giving them this money, there are many reasons why it's objectionable, but the most clear one is, again, this is military equipment for an occupying force doing a genocide of defenseless people. So you can't vote present on that. You can't vote yes on that and not be pro genocide or not be facilitating a genocide, because that's exactly what you're doing. And with the Iron Dome, so they basically it shoots up a bunch of whenever they detect a rocket or a missile coming from occupied Palestinian territory, it fires off a bunch of rockets to intercept it, and most of the time it does, and the rockets don't even make it to the ground in Israel. Um, so, and that's part of the reason why the Israeli casualties are usually so low during any type of like armed conflict between the Palestinians, the occupied Palestinians, and the IDF. Part of that is because of the Iron Dome. Also, part of it is because Palestinians just don't have anywhere near the same level of military capability to put up a real fight against one of the most well funded and armed militaries on the planet. So it is, like I said, it's just gratuitous to be giving them another $1 billion. And why do they need $1 billion to fund the Iron Dome right now? Because very recently, a couple months ago, they let loose on Gaza again, and they were bombing the shit out of civilians, bombing hospitals. Again, all in the middle of a pandemic. They bombed the only one of the only COVID treatment centers in Gaza. They bombed office buildings. They bombed a building that housed the offices, the headquarters, the Gaza headquarters for dozens or over a dozen media outlets, and very prominent media outlets like the Associated Press, Al Jazeera, I believe Reuters. And so it was they were doing what they do. It was a bomb fest on civilians, and there was returning fire from the Palestinian side, and they fired a bunch of rockets, and the Iron Dome and rockets were going off nonstop. So now, after they did a genocide, no, after their latest escalation in the genocide, the chapter that I just spoke to you about. And by the way, they've still been bombing Gaza on and off whenever they feel like it, ever since this ceasefire after that whole incident. But now they need to replenish the Iron Dome after it was being used so much to block Palestinian rockets while they were being genocided by the IDF. So it is so unconscionable for you not only to take sides, but take sides with the aggressor and make sure that they're defended and make sure they're protected while they're massacring innocent, defenseless Palestinians. So it is so gross that any politician in this country would give our money to fund this program and this Israeli occupation. And yes, it wasn't AOC alone who voted for it, but the reason why it's notable and the reason why it's objectionable that she's doing it is because she didn't run on oh, I'm just going to be just like the rest of the politicians in Congress. I'm going to be just like the rest of the Democrats in Congress. That's not what she ran on. That's not how she raised tens of millions of dollars from working class people who wanted to change the status quo. That's not how she did it. She didn't say, oh, I'm going to run and I'm going to cast my votes to please the Israeli lobby, to please AIPAC. That's not what she ran on. So again, this is just part of what I think is an important project to let people know how full of shit all these Justice Democrats are. And you all might like said there are plenty of people in my audience who are up on this. They probably never believed them to begin with, but for that's you. And you need to understand that there are still millions of people who theoretically agree with us on policy, but they're still caping for, simping for, defending these shitty charlatan politicians, and not just doing that, focusing all of their political energy into supporting these candidates and supporting their races, and they're also spending unholy amounts of money to fund these politicians. So I do think it's a necessary project to wake people up to the fact that if you're going, at least let's set the record straight. You funding Justice Democrats, you might as well just give that money to the DNC. Because, and especially on the issue of foreign policy, there is no daylight between them and the rest of the Democratic Party. And of course, they'll give you the rhetoric and they say, oh, Palestinians deserve human rights, but they're not going to do anything to really buck the political establishment when it comes to this issue. So it's gross. It's basically expected at this point from the Justice Democrats. And like I said, it's not just like, people need to understand that in the US, in our current political climate, this undying, unwavering support for Israel while they're doing a genocide. And I keep saying they're doing a genocide because that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing ethnic cleansing. If you listen to the Israeli politicians, they are very open with the fact. Benjamin Netanyahu, and they're even people to his right, even more extreme than him in positions of power in Israel. They will in the open tell you, we want to remove Palestinians from what they call Israeli territory. They want to remove them, and some of them will just say they want to wipe them off the face of the earth. It is a genocide. And then when you couple that with what they're actually doing, their actions, how they bombing civilians all the time, how they're bombing hospitals, how they're bombing the civilian infrastructure. Back in 2014, they bombed the last power plant in Gaza, and ever since then, they have not had reliable electricity in those territories. They, at best, will have electricity for like 3 hours a day. At best, in the middle of a fucking desert. So that means no sewage treatment, and they don't have electricity to properly store their food and keep it from expiring. It's hard to conduct business like that. It's hard to run any type of functioning school. So this, by any stretch of the imagination, this is a fucking genocide. And in our current political climate, it's not, people do not act like that. They act like this is, oh, we're just here to defend Israel. But that's, if anybody who follows this issue knows that's not what's happening here. You know Israel's the aggressor. You know they're the one stealing Palestinian lands, throwing Palestinians off of out of their homes, demolishing their homes, and just so that they can build up new settlements. They are the aggressors. They're the genociders here. And like votes like this from the Justice Democrats, from AOC, it's not gonna be viewed as like some up in the air thing, like because you're seeing some people. There aren't as many people defending her as usual, but even with their criticisms, their mild, weak sauce criticisms, they're still like trying to provide wiggle room, and like, it's not that bad because X, Y, and Z. But and some of the excuses like, well, she's doing it because she got pressure from her district, and So that's why she voted that way, and I don't agree with that. She voted no, and then she got that stirred talking to from Nancy Pelosi. I don't know exactly how it played out, but I really don't think her district had anything to do with it. She won overwhelmingly in her last two elections, so I don't think a voting no on giving $1 billion to fund the Iron Dome is like a do or die thing for her reelection. And even if that's not why you operate as a politician. That's not how you're supposed to operate. You're supposed to do the right thing and consequences be damned. But anyway, they are making that excuse. Oh, some people in her district might disagree. History, whether it's a few years from now or a couple of decades from now, is that's not going to be a valid excuse. Nobody in the German government, the Nazi party, oh, yeah, they had to be wildly pro genocide because there were some people in their districts. I mean, what are you gonna do about it? Of course, they had to support occupations in Poland and parts of Russia. They had to do it because they some people in their district they just that's what they wanted. That's not an excuse, and it's I'm calling it what it is. It's pro genocide, and people are gonna act like, oh, she voted present. You can't be half pro genocide and half against genocide. If you are not vociferously against it, then you're providing cover for it and you're supporting it in some kind of way. And like I said, there's no half supporting genocide. So that's my take on it. That's kind of how I feel on it. Let me see what's happening in the chat. DOG says, please don't be mean to AOC. She's Kyle's naive baby girl. She's in no control of her behavior. And I wouldn't expect Kyle's baby girl to have a spine. And that's another thing, like, all of these excuses, like, these are grown ass fucking adults who chose to become politicians. So by definition, you chose to put yourself in a leadership position. So I don't want to hear any, oh, it's tough, it's hard, and people are going to be... That's all bullshit. I don't care about that. You're supposed to do the right fucking thing, end of story. Or don't take the fucking job to begin with. Radical leftist agenda, when he tipped $20 in the Streamlabs, through Streamlabs, he says, good work, bleed purple, bleed purple, bleed purple. Thank you so much for the donation. If anybody else wants this, to support the stream, well, my channel's demonetized, so you can't send a super chat. But you can do what Radical Leftist Agenda did and send a donation through Streamlabs, and your donation will pop up on the screen. You also have links. The link to Streamlabs is in the description box of this video. So right underneath this video, where you normally find links, you'll find that link to Streamlabs. You also, in the live chat and in the description box, you'll see links to PayPal, links to Patreon. Big shout out to all the people supporting on Patreon every month. It's definitely helps so much. And on all the people who give those one-time contributions on PayPal, I mean, it means more than you guys that I could even put into words. Also, I have a link to a GoFundMe for the link to GoFundMe for an apartment, because I've been recording from a hotel room. I'm currently recording from a hotel room, and it is not cheap. It is not ideal, but that's basically my only option at this point. So if you want to help me get like a permanent place where I can record, there's a GoFundMe so that I could get an apartment, and I would greatly appreciate that. Let me see what else is happening in the chat. Oh, Radical Leftist Agenda just said good work. Majin Bull says, oh, he was responding to a thing. Everybody. Lone Star Andy says, plenty of money for Israel and war, none for the people of America who are struggling so much right now. And that's another thing. The money that we just serve up to Israel, as if they aren't a functioning, prospering country with single payer, all types of social safety nets, and They're doing fine for themselves. But yet we continue to give them $3 billion every year to fund the military so that they can use that to do genocide. And it is gross. I believe I seen the numbers. It was like maybe like $10 million a day we send to Israel to fund their genocide and the occupation of the Palestinians. I mean, imagine using that money for anything productive here. Anything. You could literally solve homelessness. If they dedicated that money to putting everybody in a house here in this country, we would literally have zero homeless people. But instead, they're going to use that to fund an occupation because that's what their corporate donors want. That's what their donors at Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and Boeing, all the defense contractors who make all the weapons that they sell to Israel. That's what they want. They want occupation and they want genocide. That's what brings in the bucks. The Israeli lobby, AIPAC, they are not serving the interests of Israeli citizens, of Israeli elites who also want to continue the genocide. So it's gross, and of course there is no limit on the money that we can spend when you understand modern monetary theory. They literally just print the money, but it is a useful marker to or it's useful for to paint a picture for people on what kind of money could be used to spend could be spent here for good and could be actually productive and do good in this country, but instead they will always find an excuse to not do those things. But the genocide, endless war, that's a blank check, no questions asked for that. Austin B says, "Where are the AOC simps calling this out?" I mean, um, there. I was on Twitter. There was a couple people who simp for her. I'm like, I ain't gonna defend her on this. They're still not gonna admit that she's a fraud and a sellout, but they're just like, all right, I'm not gonna try to defend this one. Um, David Dole, you know, at the Rational National, fucking whole brand on shilling for these fraud progressive politicians. He was like, "Oh, I can't defend her on this," and then proceeded to try to provide a little bit of cover and say, "Oh, she's probably doing this because the people in her district." And again, it's bullshit. But at least it's not just outright trying to defend her for this shit. Uh, I'm a Phil American. Says you and Hinkle are the on the realist. Thank you so much. I very much like Jackson Hinkle and his show and the work that he's doing over there at the Dive. He's also I respect his activism because he's out there in the streets, out there for a force to vote, out there for March for Medicare for All, out there. I believe he's been out there for some actions for Assange rallies. He was out there on the steps of the Capitol for Occupy Congress to call for an end to homelessness in this country. So I respect the work that Jackson Hinkle does as a commentator and also respect his activism. The Church of Evil says, "LOL, Kyle is so laughable now. He should have never commented on TYT and Jimmy Dore. It's been downhill since." It's funny because, and there's another thing about that whole chapter that nobody really talks about. He got fired from TYT from that. They literally removed him from the network because Jank. I saw the video where Jank talked about it. It was so petty. It was so small, and to think like that's how they do somebody who was at their network. One of the literally the biggest show on their network aside from the main show that has like 20 million, has like 5 million subscribers on YouTube. They were basically like, "Oh yeah, Kyle says he agrees with Jimmy Dore on policy more than he agrees with us, so we decided it's not a good fit for our network. So he will go in our separate ways." Literally, just removed him from the network, took a show off their website and all that shit. Kyle still to this day never addressed it. He's never addressed it, and I thought I always thought it was weird that he did it because that's a pretty big fucking deal. and it became kind of, I see where it's gonna become a problem, an issue, because when the whole Nina Turner joined TYT thing happened, he had not a fucking word to say about it. Because how can you say anything about that, which is clearly a shit move? Um, but also he doesn't want to criticize Nina Turner. But you can't even say anything about it because it would be weird to do a story about TYT and you have never mentioned the fact that you got fired from TYT. But I have some words for Kyle in the next topic that we're going to be talking about anyway. Um, Abolish politician says Jackson is hit or miss for me, but he does some good activism. I'll give him that. I mean, there's nobody that you're gonna agree with 100% of the time on YouTube or anywhere else. Anybody who does commentary, you're not gonna agree with anybody 100% of the time. But I definitely think he's doing better than most people in this space. Definitely better than the old era of uh, um, left media. So I will give him his credit. I will give him his credit. All right, so like I said, the links to support the show, they're pinned in the live chat. They're in the description box of this video, right underneath the video. You guys could go check that out. I'm going to get started with oh, I was on the top chat. I wasn't even in the live chat. So let me just Skeptical Mantis channel 10. What's up, Skeptical Mantis? You've also been one of my longest subscribers. Has been following the show for a very long time. Says Kyle is out of touch. He should get a real job. And here's what I'm gonna say something on this. I think that for a lot of people doing commentary, it like became a day job and they aren't like actively pushing for anything. It's just they sit in front of the camera, they talk about some shit. Kyle will just repeat the same fucking talking points that he's been going on with for years, and then they turn the camera off and they go home and they cash a check, and then that's it. Um, Look, man, I'm not gonna say that you should never make content, but I do think at some point, especially if you're just becoming so out of touch and so not with it, your content is so useless. I think you should look into doing other things. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. Cornel West, he he wrote a book called Black Prophetic Fire, and I've seen him do like some speeches and some commentary on it. And one of the themes in the book um, is like, of course, the prophetic fire. And what he means by that is the like the fire, the drive that you have inside you to be a radical truth teller, no matter what the cost, willing to take all the slings and arrows because you are fighting for something that you think is correct and you think is right and you think is a moral outrage. That's what he considers prophetic fire, and he made like such a great description where he says that for some people the fire, it burns at different times in their lives, and while it's burning it might not have the same intensity as it did once before, but you just gotta, while the fire is burning bright, you gotta uh, uh, um, really be out there and you gotta really be fighting for what you think is right. And I think that is something like that people who do commentary, they that should always be something that is on like the top of mind for them. Anytime they're sitting down to make content, is the prophetic fire as hot as it used to be? And if it isn't, am I sort of like telling like like pushing people or making the status quo seem okay because I'm not pushing as hard. And if you do, if you're honest with yourself and you find that, oh, maybe it isn't burning as hot, maybe the content isn't doing what like I wanted it to do or what I intended it to do, then you should just be real and take a step back or do what you can, like figure out a way to bring the fire back. But this what I've noticed is there are just a lot of people who, like I said, it's they started and then they at some point they realize, nothing's gonna change, I'm just gonna keep doing the same thing and I'm gonna get my money anyway. And I don't know, I don't like that. I think I strongly support people who do this. I support people doing this full time, but I also think it is a good idea to have other areas where you can make money and make a living. Because in order to avoid the thing that we're talking about right now, which is just you, now this is your day job, you don't really do anything else to make money, so you're just gonna sit here and take up space and sort of like derail the movement from where it should be going. So that was a very long little tangent I went on there, but that's kind of how I think about that. Radical leftist agenda says he needs to take it to the streets, and that's another thing. Um, if your content is as stale as Kyle's content is, and you notice that you don't have the fire and you're not really agitating, um, and making like provoking people to um, push for change, then especially if you're at the point where you're breaking in hundreds of thousands of dollars and you've been at that point for years, and like I said, now he's reached his Bill Maher character arc where he's out of touch and unrepentant. Once you get to that stage, it's not like, oh, it's written in like stone that you can't get back in touch with the movement and what's going on. You can get in the fucking streets, but Kyle will never. He will fucking never. Not he didn't for March Medicare for All. He won't ever get into the streets. And I'm not gonna say, oh, your content, your opinion isn't valid at all if you don't get in the streets. But if you don't get in the streets and you're very wealthy and you're just sitting there bloviating about shit that you have no type of connection to, then yes, your content is going to get stale. And at that point, it's basically a job requirement that you do get in the streets and that you do interact with activists and people who are actually dealing with the status quo, living the status quo. It should be part of your job requirement to stay in touch with that. That's how I think about that. Mm. All right. Austin B says, I don't agree with anyone 100% of the time, but I support the people that actually care about improving conditions of people in the U.S. and around the globe. Um, People to avoid our TYTs, CMC, etc. I couldn't say it better myself. I could not say it better myself. Those people have no interest in doing anything to bust up the status quo. They're fine with it the way it is, and they pay lip service to things being better. And this is actually something I'm going to get into in the next story. They pay lip service to how much they wish things were better, but they aren't doing anything to push us that way, to agitate for that type of change. Robert Durden says, "Love your stuff, but sorry I'm late." No problem. That's what the I always have stream replays on, so you can go backwards. You can just wait until the stream's done and watch it over again. I know it's not easy for everybody to get here at the same time, but you're here now. I still have another story, and I'm still gonna. After that, I'm gonna come back to the chat. So, you didn't miss too much. You didn't miss all the fun. All right, everybody. So I'm gonna start that. Um, Socialist Alternative says unapologetic. You should look into Marxism. So, and actually, I'm gonna speak on where I how I feel about theory, um, kind of and like labels and stuff like that. I'm gonna get into that in this next video. So that was a good question to ask. Um, so all right. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that you guys I know have been waiting to hear my opinion on, which is this horseshit infrastructure bill that is being negotiated in Congress. And my so let me just back it up a little bit. One of the conversations that really drew me to left new media when I first got into it was the conversation about the Overton window in the United States and how it continues to just shift to the right, and it's so extremely to the right to this point that it's basically a fucking parody of some type of like fascist government at this point. And I really appreciated that discourse that was happening all over left new media and basically anybody who was hosting a show, they would have conversations about that because it really did a great job of framing the political climate in the US and how we got to where we are and how it keeps getting worse. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that conversation, the Overton window is the spectrum of respectable political discourse, respectable political debate in a society. And here, the Overton window, it's so, especially the conversation amongst the people in power, it is so to the right that it doesn't even make sense and it doesn't even resemble anything that benefits the people. It's just rank corporatocracy, rank oligarchy. And that's considered like the normal position to take here. And so I always appreciated the conversations about that and to bring that to people's awareness. But noticeably, that conversation has been missing anywhere in left new media, which is a damn shame because the Overton window is moving further and further to the right quicker than at any point in since I've been following politics closely. And part of that is because of the state of crisis that we're in with the pandemic and the economic crisis. And the as Naomi Klein before she lost her fucking mind, as she described in the shock doctrine, this is disaster capitalism, and the elites, the capitalists, the millionaires and the billionaires, they see an opportunity to advance radical change, and in a direction that benefits them, and that's what's happening, and that's why the Overton window is shifting so dramatically to the right in such a short period of time. And one of the areas where it's so clear is this infrastructure bill that's being negotiated. Because if you look at the scale of crisis in this country, and you also consider the fact that Democrats completely control the House, control the Senate, and they control the White House, it is unconscionable that they don't do everything in their power to meet this moment. And anything less than that is them begging for revolt, is them begging for people to take to the streets and fuck shit up. That's honestly the most reasonable interpretation of what the political climate in this country is and how big the the political agenda should be. So um, in regards to this stimulus bill, the Overton window is in fucking crazy town because they're not proposing to do anything major to solve any of the major crises that we're facing. And I left out the climate crisis. We are knee deep, neck deep in a climate apocalypse. And the window to do anything about it is closing. People keep stretching it and saying, "Oh, it's 12 years from now, it's 10 years from now." But that's what they were saying during the primary back in 2019. That was so 2 years ago. And at every turn, the scientists keep saying it's worse than we predicted. So if we were going by the original 10-year timeline, that was people were talking about 10 years. I mean, back in 2019, we have like 8 years left to do something to avert literal hell on earth conditions during our lifetime. And again, considering that and COVID and the economic crisis, the mass homelessness crisis, mass eviction crisis, 20 million people about to be evicted. How on earth can anybody justify them doing this shitty infrastructure bill? Two shitty infrastructure bills, one bipartisan one that's like $1.5 trillion, giant privatization scheme to sell off of public services, public land to private corporations so they could make a buck off of it. That's basically what the $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill is. And then the one that everybody is pretending is like our saving grace and is like the best thing since sliced bread, the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that Bernie Sanders wrote, that is also shit, and that also doesn't come anywhere near addressing the scale of crises that we're facing with. And by the way, note that this isn't $3.5 trillion over a year. This isn't $1.5 trillion over a year. All of that money is supposed to be allocated over 10 years. So when you look at it, they're talking about a couple $100 billion a year, less than the we spend on the military budget, to deal with the climate crisis, to deal with the mass homelessness crisis, to deal with the crumbling infrastructure, to deal with the people being poisoned. There is lead and contaminants in so many different communities across the country. We need to tear up all the fucking pipes and rebuild the infrastructure. And they dedicated maybe half of what the Pentagon budget is to all of those major issues. And so I don't know how anybody sees this as anything less than a giant slap in the face and go fuck yourself when the Democrats completely control government. So needless to say, I've been disappointed with everybody pushing this bullshit infrastructure bill. Disappointed with the way that everybody in new media has been covering it, because they've taken the position that this is the best we got. So they aren't pushing. They will say, "Oh, Medicare for all is great. I support Medicare for all. We need Medicare for all. Let's all the statistics and all the things." But they said they're going to lower the Medicare eligibility age like from 65 to 60. So hey, that's great. That's a good thing. So give them a round of applause. Yay, progressives. What the fuck is that? But that's what they're doing. With this entire package, nobody in left new media, no activists are pushing them to do what's actually necessary. The furthest left position, the furthest left take you will find out there is, I'm going to hold these progressives to the $3.5 trillion that they arbitrarily decided is what they're not going to move from, which I know they will. I'm going to hold them to that, and that's the furthest left position. You're going to hold them to a bunch of neoliberal policies that don't meet the moment, then you're holding them to neoliberalism, and neoliberalism is now your standard. Because what is really getting under my fucking skin is how everybody's pretending like the urgency that was here during the Bernie campaign, they're pretending like that urgency just doesn't exist anymore, and now people will actually have more time to wait, even though the situation has gotten dramatically worse than it was during the primary. They act like the urgency doesn't exist anymore, and then they act like the policies that we all agreed to, they act like those didn't exist, and now we're just operating off of a completely different standard, which is what these shitty progressives say is their what they're proposing. But what all they're proposing is neoliberal shit that corporate Democrats would agree to. So, like, overnight, everybody shifted to the right and said, okay, now all we're doing is neoliberalism, and that's like that's the best we're gonna get here. And it's a lot of this accepting, what this is, this, like I said, the best we're gonna get. And like I said, this infrastructure bill is such a perfectly highlights that, because what was Bernie Sanders proposing? What was his Green New Deal proposal when he was running for president? Again, they were operating off of the 10-year window given to us by the international climate scientists. And they said, we need to get to net zero carbon emissions immediately. And in order to do that, Bernie Sanders was proposing like a $16 trillion Green New Deal to retrofit all buildings in this country so that they run on green renewable energy, building power plants that run on green renewable energy, building hundreds of thousands of electric car charging stations across the country, maybe millions of electric car charging stations across the country. Literally overhauling our entire infrastructure. $16 trillion. So you mean to tell me now Bernie Sanders dropped $13 trillion from the price tag, and we're supposed to just accept that and be like, oh, that's all we're going to get, $3.5 trillion. And again, that's not $3.5 trillion dedicated to the climate crisis like Bernie Sanders was. That's $3.5 trillion for universal pre-K, which I doubt that they're going to do. That's $3 trillion, $3.5 trillion to cover lowering the Medicare eligibility age and expanding the Affordable Care Act. So all of these things are supposed to fit in $3.5 trillion, and nobody's calling bullshit on that. So I have a clip from Jordan Sheridan that basically encapsulates the bullshit and the doublespeak that they're trying to do when it comes to this infrastructure bill. So I'm gonna play that clip for you all, and then we'll come back and break it down. I'll be looking at the live chat to make sure everything's all right with the video, and so I'll get that going, and we will be
blow up your spot, but this is the perfect opener to respond to this. Focus within. Jordan, preach incrementalism already. So, Colin, if you could put up, blow up your spot, but this is the perfect opener to respond to this. Focus. Blow up your spot, but this is the perfect opener to respond to this. Focus within. Jordan, preach incrementalism already. So, Colin, if you could put up the list of the key points in this 3.5 trillion reconciliation deal. So, universal pre-K would be in it. Free community college would be in it. Paid family leave would be in it. Child tax credit, which on its own I think is kind of incremental, but with all these other things, I think is very good. This child tax credit could be up to $3,000 for most families, up to $5,000, depending on, what is it, the income threshold, Jen?
I'm not, we'll have to check on that.
Okay. So child tax credit, then you have expanding Medicare, dental, hearing, and vision, which is important because in the fight for actual Medicare for all, it's important to expand the actual Medicare program so that if we were to get Medicare for all, well, the Medicare program also has dental, vision, and hearing. So it is important to have that. 80% electric power by 2030, affordable housing investment. There's several other things in there like key climate proposals. I don't know if it's going to pass because they live and die by the parliamentarian, which is bullshit. But trying to make undocumented immigrants, giving them legal status, which would be huge. So, Colin, put it back up. To that person that said that, and I'm not fighting with you. Let me ask you a question. and we didn't put it up there, but 3.5 trillion. Let's just say 2-3 years ago. Would you be calling this incremental? Literally ask yourself, would you be calling these things incremental? Because none of these things are temporary. For example, the coronavirus relief package had the temporary, it was all temporary. Eviction moratoriums, rental relief, the child tax credit, all those things temporary. For progressives, our goal is permanent structural change, right? So would you be calling $3.5 trillion, which, by the way, is the largest social spending package in modern American history? And we don't have everything up on the screen. These are the key points, but there's other stuff in there. $3.5 trillion, which is the largest spending package for actual people. There's been larger social spending packages to bail out banks and fossil fuckers and big companies. But for actual working people, 3.5 trillion with actual things with teeth. If any YouTube hosts are going to tell you none of these things matter, then they're lying to you. Because ask Jen or others if universal pre-K would matter. Ask, frankly, black, brown, indigenous, poor whites if free community.
I'll speak on that.
All right, so I got some things to say about that. Um, so first of all, he's repeating their fucking bullshit talking points propaganda. Oh yeah, free community college is gonna be. If you believe that bullshit after the bait and switch that Biden has done, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. So Biden, first of all, he has the ability right now to completely eliminate student loan debt. Is he gonna do it? No, the fuck he's not. He ran on eliminating like $10,000 in student loan debts. It was always, the number was always fluctuating. It was $10,000, then it was $30,000, whatever the fuck. He hasn't done it yet. All it would take is him to sign a piece of paper, and he hasn't done it yet. So if you fucking think that the corporate Democrats, and again, this is just something that just wiping the debt away is something that Biden can do with this, just him signing a piece of paper, and he hasn't done it yet. But you think they're going to wrangle all the corporate Democrats or enough corporate Democrats to pass free community college? Are you fucking serious? Are you serious? Did you think about that shit? Did you take a minute to think about that shit? Or did you see that it was there? Did you see that somebody wrote it there, and now, oh, they said it's there, they said that they're going to push for it, so there's a good chance it passes. No, it's not going to fucking pass. And stop telling people it's going to fucking pass. They're going to pass free community college. Fuck out of here with that. But then also, he talks about, oh, they have these universal programs. Don't we love universal programs? And he talks about the universal daycare. First of all, it's not a universal program. A universal program is something that everybody benefits from. Who that benefits is everybody with fucking kids. There are plenty of people in this country who do not have kids. So that program will do absolutely nothing to improve their lives while we are mid-crisis, mid-apocalypse here in this country. So again, that's not true that that's like some grand universal. And of course, it would help so many people. It would help millions and millions of people who can't afford childcare in this country. But again, when you compare that to the scale of the crisis that's what's going on here, tell me how much does universal childcare help when millions of families are being thrown out into the streets right now? Please tell me how much that helps them. I'm sure they would prefer a home for their family over universal childcare. But also, like, all of this, the way he's framing all of this is, oh, it's not what we want, but it's good enough. That's what's on offer. So are you going to take it or are you not? And again, that sounds like some neoliberal bullshit. And I don't, you guys know I'm not like huge on political labels and things like that. And I'm not like a Dave Rubin, like, oh, don't label me or whatever. Like, I just don't think and like all this theory and stuff like that, or I subscribe to this particular theory, and if you don't, you're wrong, XYZ. I just don't think that's the most effective way to communicate politics to people. I think the most effective way to do that is to speak to issues that affect people and translate it in like real language that regular people can understand. But I do think political labels serve a purpose, especially in this moment, because there needs to be some distinction between the actual left, the at any by any means necessary left, and the people who say they agree with our policies, they like our policies, they all sound good on paper, but one, they aren't doing anything to advance the agenda, and two, at every turn they fold like fucking lawn chairs and say, this is the best we're gonna get, so I'll accept the neoliberalism. So I do think we need to make that distinction, because you can't keep calling yourself a lefty. You can't say, "Oh, I'm down for the movement, I'm down for the cause," but your entire framework of how you operate in reality is within the neoliberal framework. Because if that's the case, then you're just a fucking neoliberal who thinks Medicare for all sounds nice. And you know who else was saying that? A bunch of fucking Hillary Clinton supporters and shit libs. Oh yeah, of course. If we could start all over, of course single payer would be nice, but man, that's not reality. And you got to get to work with the Republicans and the Democrats and Joe Manchin. It's just not feasible right now. But what is lowering the Medicare eligibility age and expanding Medicaid. So I think it's important to use those labels because, like I said, that is a lot of neoliberal claptrap and defending the status quo while you're paying lip service and pretending like you want more, but you're not. You keep telling people to accept less. So in any sane world, when the Democrats control government as they do right now, and it won't be like this for long, because almost definitely they're going to lose the midterms and lose the House. So right now is the opportunity to, one, avert climate apocalypse. This is the last chance that they have to avert climate apocalypse without some massive pressure in the streets. This is their chance to do something about unprecedented homelessness and eviction crisis. They've only passed one piece of legislation the entire time Biden's been in the White House and since Democrats took control of the government. And it's been almost a year now. And the year's almost up. So this will be the last major legislation of 2021. And if this is what you're okay with, this is what you're going to accept, you would have to drag me kicking and screaming before I would come anywhere near saying this is okay. But like I said, these neoliberals masking as leftists, as soon as this was proposed, they had no pushback for the charlatan, fraud, alleged progressive politicians in Congress. There was no pushback. Bernie said, "Oh, I know I was running on $16 trillion for the Green New Deal, but I'm going to put a couple $100 billion to address climate change in this $3.5 trillion bill, and that's the best I got, and you're going to take it and you're going to accept it." None of them said, "Fuck you, Bernie, that's bullshit. People should be outside your office protesting for more." No, they didn't. They said, well, this is what Bernie Sanders is doing. This is what Pramila Jayapal says. This is what AOC says they're going to fight for. So by line in the sand is this arbitrary number that they've set, and that's the farthest we're going to go. And Jordan talks, and again, talking like a fucking neoliberal. He says, "Oh, it's the $3.5 trillion spending bill. There's never been a spending bill this big in history, in U.S. history." Again, that means fuck all. That means absolutely nothing. And again, when you compare the scale of the crisis and what's happening right now, that means absolutely nothing. And so you're going to, instead of talking about the policies and the policies that are necessary to deal with what's happening in this country, you're going to talk about the price tag. "Oh, it's so big. Aren't you guys happy? It's a really big number." Glossing over the fact that in context for what's happening, it's fucking worthless. It's worthless, and that doesn't even. And again, there's giant corporate giveaways in this too. So, and then he talks about, oh well, progressives, our goal is structural, permanent structural change. So some things in here are going to be permanent. So why aren't you happy with that? That's not my goal. My goal isn't just permanent structural change, because you could make anything permanent. Is it good or not? Is it what's required or not? That's my fucking goal. Does it meet the needs of the people or not? That's my goal, to solve people's problems with government as it fucking should. That's my goal. My goal isn't just structural change and in the fine print, oh, it's structural change, but it doesn't really do anything. And so my whole thing on this infrastructure bill is, if you are proposing that we do 10% of what's necessary to actually get us in the right direction, you propose doing 10% of that. 10% of reduction in the apocalypse means fucking apocalypse and end times for everybody else. That doesn't change the what's happening. It might make some tweaks around the edges. It may things slightly better for some people. Or people with kids, you're getting the tax credit, and you might maybe, I highly doubt it, get some childcare. And almost if that shit passes, it would be, they would put so much fucking means testing on that shit that it would be like damn near like maybe 5 people would qualify for the childcare at the end of it anyway. But if your goal is just permanent structural change, you know what would be permanent structural change? If the government decided, oh, you know what, we're going to give everybody $100 tax credit every year, everybody in the country. That's permanent. That's universal. So, but does it change anything? No, it doesn't. So that's just like some weird arbitrary line that he decided and he set for himself. So I will not get behind that bullshit. I'm not gonna support the Justice Democrats. I'm not gonna give them a round of applause. I'm not gonna throw them a fucking parade, because they made some noise about a $3.5 trillion bill. I don't give a fuck about that. Does it meet the moment? No, it doesn't. So it doesn't get my support, and that's my very simple standards that I have here. And everybody in new media, like I said, they're just phoning it in at this point. They might say, "Oh, I like Medicare for all," but when they propose this bullshit, lowering the Medicare eligibility age and expanding the Affordable Care Act, I'm not going to push at all to get Medicare for all. I'm going to accept that, knowing goddamn well that this is the last time that they're going to pass any major reforms to healthcare policy. This is similar to when they passed the Affordable Care Act. They're going to wash their hands of this and said, "I'm done. I reformed healthcare. It was big. It was structural. It never happened before in history. I did it, and this is the best you're gonna get from me in regards of healthcare." That's exactly what the fuck they're gonna do if they do any of this that lower the Medicare eligibility age. And knowing that, people in left media are gonna say, shrug their shoulders, like, this is the best guy. I know millions, hundreds of thousands of people are still gonna be dying unnecessarily because they can't afford healthcare. But hey, they lowered the eligibility age to 65. So why don't you guys take yes for an answer? Why don't you guys give credit where it's due? Why aren't you guys praising politicians more? In a failed fucking state where they've left us for dead, why aren't you praising politicians more for doing minor tweaks and fucking tweaks around the edges? Why aren't you praising them for more neoliberalism? So that's my take on the infrastructure bill. I'm not even. I had no interest in following the fucking theater that was going on around that shit. The only commentary I'm providing to that shit is that it's not enough, and I'm not gonna tell nobody. I'm not telling anybody. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's okay. You should be happy because there's some good thing. I'm not telling people that shit at all. I'm telling people it's not enough, and that's my only fucking commentary you're gonna get on this from me. So let me check out the chat and see what's happening in the chat. so many live chat comments. I'm trying to go back to when I was like when the video was playing and when I was doing commentary, so I could get you guys respond to what you guys were saying in real time. Austin B says Jordan Sheridan does good work, but shit commentary. I mean, that is literally everybody, almost everybody. Anybody's criticism of status quo. That's basically what it is. Anybody's criticism of status quo is exactly that. Your original on the ground reporting. We appreciate it. Your commentary is fucking trash though. DOG says Jordan and Jen can have consistent shit takes on majority of issues. That is the truth. That is the fucking truth. Radical leftist agenda says this helps for people with kids. When are they going to help everyone out? This is my, and I really fucking, I'm really fed up with this shit because they keep doing this shit and they're trying to hide behind the kids. Oh, we did something for the kids. You can't be mad at us. We did something. Fuck the kids. I know that sounds mean, but fuck them kids. What about everybody else? Like with the tax credit, they were over here dancing and throwing a fucking parade about the tax credit. I mean, we're in the middle of a fucking economic crisis. What about the people who don't have kids? They're just gonna kick rocks? Like, what the fuck is that? I'm a full American says pragmatic progressive, aka squad simple. Yep, that's definitely it. That pragmatic progressive bullshit. And I ain't with that at all. So you can take that to our revolution, but don't bring that shit around here. Deep Moody Purple Blue says we need these things yesterday, not years down the road. Did they project how many people would die in the meantime while we wait for those things? Exactly. And another thing that I wish I goddamn mentioned when I was responding to Jordan's clip. So when he was talking in that video, he said something about, oh, imagine 2 years ago. Imagine if we had they proposed this and they proposed universal child care and they proposed all these other things that are in the infrastructure bill. And he was like, oh, would you be saying these are incremental? Would you say, yes, actually, I probably would be saying those incremental because those aren't the policies that I signed up for 2 years ago. But even still, Jordan, let me think for a moment. What has happened between now and 2 years ago? Oh, that's right. The fucking sky started falling. There was a fucking pandemic, unprecedented economic crisis. That's what happened in the last 2 years. So if you're proposing anything that would have been good 2 years ago, you're not meeting the moment. By definition, you aren't meeting the fucking moment. Nicholas Smith says AOC is the best progressive we have in the House. Sadly, none of the progressives who drag her name through the mud would dare run for office and win like she did. Okay, so I have many things to say about that. First of all, I'm not a fucking politician, and many people aren't fit for that. And I honestly respect that even more than people like fucking AOC and the rest of the shitty Justice Democrats who run for office with absolutely no intention of actually serving people or risking their careers or putting anything on the line to serve people. They run for office with no actual moral compass, but just because it's what's trendy and they think that they'll make a bunch of fucking money off of it, and then they go and immediately sell everybody out and don't fight for you at all. So I respect the people more who, for whatever reason, they decide and are honest with themselves, that's not fit for me. That's not a role that I'm made for, so I'll do other things. But this whole, either run for office or don't criticize any of these shit politicians, that's bullshit. There are only 535 members of the House and the Senate, so you mean to tell me the only people who are allowed to criticize them in the entire country of over 300 million people are people who run for fucking office? What a weird standard to set. And then dragging her name through the mud. Dragging her name through the mud, I'm calling her out for the bullshit that she's doing. And if that's dragging her name through the mud, then so be it. I'm not going to just ignore this shit after she done took everybody for a fucking ride, raised millions of dollars, pretending to be this fighter and revolutionary and all that shit. and then completely comes into Congress and is no different from the rest of the shitty politicians, just a regular useless ass partisan hack. I'm not gonna let that shit go. I'm not gonna like, oh, shrug my shoulders. Oh, we'll get him next time. No, I'm going to dig in on that shit for AOC and the rest of the charlatans. So, I mean, if that's how you feel, I don't know how you found yourself to this channel, but hopefully you stick around and you realize why people are so fed up with them. But I'm telling you that defending them is that shit is not gonna fly in the chat. You will be a lonely soul in that chat if that's the position that you're gonna take. Austin B says, I think it's funny when everyone was skeptical of Trump for good reason, but now when Dems are in office, we're just going to take them at the word. Yeah, just take them at the word. They said that this is all they can do, so this is all they can do, guys. Are you? I mean, what you want them to work magic? They only completely control government. They're doing the best they can, guys. They're doing the best that they can. Deep Moody Purple Blue says, holding these grifters accountable is a part-time job that none of us get paid for while they live lavishly on our public dollars and we get none of our basic needs met. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. SS, I mean, is that Sarah in the chat? Looking good, bestie. Thanks, I appreciate that. Thanks for showing up. Oh, the PayPal link in the chat is broken? What? I mean, that's the PayPal link that I always use. I just copy and pasted it. Let me just check. Ain't that a bitch? Oh. I know what it is. I put Patreon too close to it. There was supposed to be a space between that and Patreon, which I did not do. Give me 1 second. I'm working on technical things, as always. It's a one-man band here. One-man band. Goddamn. But if you guys want to help contribute to the show, I have the link to Streamlab in the description box. I'm trying to fix the link to PayPal and Patreon. Fuck that up. But those are the ways you can help support the show. I greatly appreciate everybody who has donated and has shown up to support recently. So I'm going to try it again. It should be working. No, it is not working. All right. If you go to the About page of the YouTube channel, the links to PayPal and all those things are there. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you see the tab that says, there's like a home tab that has, I forgot what I even have on my home tab, but it's might be like my recent uploads and like another playlist or something like that. And then next to that tab, you see like the videos. If you scroll all the way to the end where it says About, I have links to PayPal, Patreon, and all those things if you want to help support the show. And thanks for letting me know that the link is broken. I gotta figure that out. Whatever man says, unapologetic. The parliamentarian told me not to vote Democrat. I think she told me that too. So we all know how it goes. As the parliamentarian makes a decree from on high, there is no challenging that. So I guess we're not voting Democrat. Screw Google says land of the free, home of the slave. Yep, there should definitely be a fucking motto. Austin B says permanent structural change will be Medicare for all. I 100% agree with you. This bullshit lowering the Medicare eligibility age. Motherfucker, if Hillary Clinton was proposing that shit, and she did, and it was actually better than Pramila Jayapal's bullshit lowering it to 5 years, I would still say that's bullshit, and I would still say, like, I don't, and this is why I'm calling them neoliberals now. Because I have a standard, no matter what's going on, no matter who's proposing a legislation. If it does not meet my standard, I'm not supporting it. But these motherfuckers will fold for anything. That's what I'm telling you. They have no commitment to the policies. They just, like they say, oh, we want to make progress. Well, you know who else is saying that? A bunch of fucking neoliberals. So I'm gonna call you a fucking neoliberal. Deep Moody Purple says you're spitting fire. Thank you. Namor says this channel is criminally underrated. Yep, I definitely get that a lot. And I'm not going to suck myself off here, but I 1000% agree. I've honestly been doing better commentary than literally almost anybody in this space. Almost anybody. I would say maybe 85% of the people in this space, and I'm being very fucking generous, I'm doing better commentary than them. So it is kind of wild that I'm only at 5,000 subscribers, but I appreciate every one of you all, and everybody who keeps showing up. So as long as I got y'all, I don't really give a fuck. But and everybody in this community, everybody in there knows that the level of commentary is better than you gonna find most places. So as long as we all on the same page about that. George E says, I want to let you know I was a longtime Status Quo member. I've since canceled my membership and joined your Patreon instead. Hey man, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do with their money. A lot of people have made that decision to stop supporting Status Quo. I'm not going to tell people to do that. Again, if you appreciate their Flint reporting, give them money for that. And if you want to give them money for that, you could give them money for that. But I could definitely understand how them talking down and mocking and strawmanning the shit out of their audience will turn people off. And I don't give a fuck how good your reporting is. I kind of don't want to give money to people who are badmouthing me every time they get in front of a fucking camera. So I get that. I get that. DOG says some shitlibs got together and debated on whether people should be allowed to joke about guillotines. This shit hits. Deep Moody Purple says she ran for the damn job. Do your job or let us know you can't and won't, and we'll gladly hire someone else. Exactly. And it's kind of the same thing with that like the same commentary I gave about all these old heads in left new media who got comfortable and turned this into their day job. If you can't be the voice of the movement and you can't be the voice of and give a voice to the positions that are buried in the mainstream and aren't really voiced by anybody else. If you can't do that, say you can't do that and do something else and let other people and give that space to other people who will gladly take over. But all this well, can't do it, but I'm here anyway, so this is the best you got. I hate that shit. Brandon Celentino, unapologetic, got name dropped on the Jimmy Dore live stream a couple days ago. I actually caught that. Nick from Fred Hampton Leftist. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the times that Jimmy shouted me out and shared some of my content, my tweets and things like that. And a lot of his guests also have shouted me out. I very much appreciate that. And honestly, I would love to be on the Jimmy Dore show one day. If we can work that out. And I've noticed that Nick from Fred Hampton Leftist has been, I mean, he's making himself kind of a regular on the Jimmy Dore show, and I love that. I really love that. Socialist Alternative says, unapologetic, if you don't mind me asking, are you a first generation immigrant? Yes. Both my parents moved to this country when they were before they turned into adults. My mom was like, I think she was in high school when she moved here, and my dad was a kid, older than a kid, I guess, but not an adult yet. So yeah, I am a first generation natural born citizen. DOG said, did AOC ever have an answer for that 160 plus K? And I think you're talking about the money that she gave from donations that poor people gave her to bust up the establishment, and she turned around and gave that to corporate Democrats. She has never had to fucking answer for that. And this is, I find it amazing that how people let her slide for that shit. I will never, you're not gonna get me to turn a blind eye to that. I don't give a fuck what else you're doing. I don't care if you're holding firm, you're holding the line on the 3.5 trillion. I'm not praising you for shit until you answer for why you're giving grassroots money to corporate, why you're funding the opposition with our money. Why are you doing that? And she has no answer for that, but she thinks that she just avoids like anybody who would ask her that. Then like she doesn't owe anybody an explanation for that. That is fucking crazy. That is some traitor shit. And you think you're just gonna like dance away from that and nobody's like ever like everybody's gonna forget that shit. I'm not gonna forget that shit. You gave hundreds of thousands of dollars, big fucking money, to corporate Democrats who are trying to block our policy agenda. What the fuck is that? And how can anybody trust you after that? Sarah, you're an idiot. Um, uh, Judas Andre says, unapologetic, the gift that keeps on giving. Yep, you might as well call me herpes. I'm the herpes of left new media. Dude, that clip is probably gonna be clipped and all over the internet, but oh well. I'm a full American says Jimmy Dore is the only real one of the old left that's left figuratively and literally. Yeah, he's literally. It's amazing how much shit he gets, and he is quite literally on top of everybody else who was doing left commentary. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, he says things inarticulately sometimes, or sometimes he makes a bad point, sometimes he gets it wrong. But I mean, when you put in context all of the work that he's done for the left and to advance the left agenda, no, he is unmatched in this space. All of the attention he's paid to Julian Assange and activists, the attention he paid to like efforts to grow up outside of the Democratic Party, third party options, all of the attention he pays to direct action and he was the one who originally came out with Force to Vote. Like all his contributions, nobody's even close to that. Not even people like the Young Turks who have millions of subscribers and a bigger reach. So honestly, I think he is like one of the greatest of all times in this space, and he does not get that credit that he deserves. Namor says, would pay to see unapologetic and Jimmy Dore exchange dialogue. I'm telling you. I mean, me and Jimmy, he follows me on Twitter. He's watched some of my videos before. He's commented on some of my videos before. I mean, it's a long time coming, but when we get together, we gonna set shit off. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. When me and Jimmy Dore get on the screen together, we get on the program together, we're gonna set shit off. And I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I upgraded the equipment. I'm just waiting at this point. I couldn't do it before with the shoddy equipment, dropping in and out when I'm doing live streams and interviews with people. Hey, I'm ready now. I'm fucking ready. I'm a film American since he also promoted March for Medicare for. Yeah, yeah. How many people were out there doing that? And he was out there, and he did a fucking barn burner speech out there in Los Angeles. So he's very much about it. There are a couple people in this space who are about this shit, and Jimmy Dore is definitely one of those people. Mr. TC says HR 5323. Please put it in the title. I saw your other comment about what's the name of the bill. I didn't have it off the top of my head. But thanks. I'll put that somewhere, maybe like in the description or something like that. Yeah. Austin B says Ilhan Omar said the Biden agenda is our agenda when it comes to infrastructure bill. Holy shit, this is frustrating. Yeah, like their whole framework that they operate on is what is Joe Biden going to allow. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that neoliberal corporatist fucking oligarch. So why am I going to support people who are only pushing Joe Biden's agenda just because they have they're branding themselves as progressives? They're pushing the same neoliberal bullshit. Okay, so again, all the links to help support this show they're actually in the description box of this video too. I should have mentioned that. The links to PayPal in the description box of the video, Patreon in the description box of this video, Streamlabs if you guys want a Streamlab comment to pop up on screen. Streamlabs, links to that is the first link in the description box of this video. Brandon Celentino says Jimmy has come from a working class background, which is why he's so based. And yeah, I do think that plays a role. He's talked about how like he came from a family with like a bunch of kids. I think he has like there were like 12 kids in his family, and his dad was like a police officer or whatever. So they weren't like rolling in the dough or anything like that. And then he was like he did manual labor for a while before he like blew up in comedy. He was like a bricklayer or something like that. So he's one of those people who knows what it's like to be part of the working class and the poor. And of course he's doing well now, he's successful now, but he has that experience, and unlike some people, he didn't just like throw it all to the side as soon as he became successful. Like he carried that same fire with him, and that's why he attracts so many people who agree with us, because he's saying all the things that they want to say and that they wish more people in prominent positions would say. All right, y'all. So if anybody has anything left to say, speak now, forever hold your peace, because we might be signing off soon. 54 live streamers right now. I very much appreciate that. You guys turning out. I think there was a lot of people who showed up for the live stream today. Zanito says, what would us only doing what Biden will get behind in his lucid moments, meeting with your family? Yeah, parody of that fucking tired ass template of a tweet that these shitty politicians keep oh, what would doing X, Y, and Z do for you, your family? Bitch, are you gonna do it? Like, people, the best way I've heard it is like they're at this point, they're just soliciting poverty porn, and they have like no intention of doing anything to make your life better. But they just want you to reply in the comments about how hard it is to be poor and how much you wish things would be better. Like, they are just soliciting poverty porn. I'm a Phil American says, whenever Door shows up in a live chat, it's like witnessing Santa on Christmas, waiting on Santa to show up here one day too. That'd be great. This is only like maybe like my 5th live stream, so I'm sure because I've seen it in the chats of other live chats of other people, and it is great. It's so funny because, and he always does like a super chat donation or whatever, but nobody ever knows if it's the real Jimmy Dore because like anybody could make it. I'm not gonna just tell people to do that before they start doing that, but like, it's hard to verify if it's actually Jimmy Dore. But he does it, and he does the super chat, and then people are just like, I don't even know if that's really him. But I've seen him in the live chats before, and definitely would welcome him in this live chat. Screw Google says, my brother is a state trooper. Before I left Facebook, we had some knockdown drag out fights because I posted the truth about law enforcement and he couldn't handle it. I told him to stop reading posts. Yeah, I mean, people get offended by that. And deep down, they have to know the criticism of the truth because they know it better than anybody else. They work with these people all the fucking time. They see how they're basically fucking thugs and criminals. So any type of outrage is just him kind of defending his occupation of choice. Zanito says, also, I don't see any donation links in the description, just Streamlabs. Well, fuck me. I thought I put it there. I guess I didn't. But they will be there when the live stream is like immediately after the live stream. I'm gonna try to do it right now while I'm here, if you guys do want to. I will put them in the live stream in the description box right now, but you probably have to refresh the page before you can see it. And you are right. The Streamlabs link is the only one there. So I just posted the rest of the links in the description of this video, but you probably have to refresh the page to see it. So if you guys didn't want to donate something before we sign off here, I just put the links to PayPal, Patreon, the GoFundMe for the apartment, because that is honestly a really big one right now. I've been recording in hotels. It is untenable, not ideal. So if you guys want me to have a permanent place to record, do the show, to do more live streams, help me get an apartment. So I have a GoFundMe for the apartment that's also now in the description box of this live stream. You just have to refresh the page to see it. I think it's also pinned in the live chat if you want to check that. Anti Bland says Kyle is too proud to bend one scintilla. The true left no longer like him, and the leftovers resent him for being not center enough. Yeah, so he's just in this weird space, and he's just like riding off of the diehard subscribers that he has in his audience still. But there are plenty of people, myself included, who had so much respect for him and the content that he was putting out. Who just, I mean, I find no fucking value in anything he's doing now. And that's on him. All right, folks. I'm going to end it here. Appreciate everybody showing up. As always, you are the best audience in YouTube. And I really do mean that, because if you look at other YouTube channels, and honestly, the left media space is like kind of the same. But you look at other YouTube channels, like the audience ain't really contributing shit. You guys have such great comments, and you add so much to the discussion. And like I said, I literally read every single comment that you guys have ever posted in my videos, and I'm so proud of my comment section because it is like the most thoughtful political dialogue you'll find anywhere else in this country, and it's happening in my comment sections of my videos. So I really appreciate that. It's one thing to make good content, but it's a whole other thing to attract an audience that adds to the content with their own great takes. So I very much appreciate all of you, everybody who keeps showing up, watching the videos, everybody who keeps showing up to the live streams. You all the best. Screw Google says I haven't logged into PayPal in years. We'll have to figure out log in to get you later. Hey man, I'm the same fucking way. I just be forgetting shit. And it don't even have to be years for me to forget the password. I can make a password and forget that shit the next week and have to change it. I don't know how many times I've had to change passwords for my accounts because I have no idea what I made the password. So, hey, I completely understand that. But I'm gonna end the live stream here. It's always so hard to end the live stream because it's always, especially when there's good conversation going on in the chat. But I got to. Things to do. It's already 12:35, and I still have to put that fucking video up for you all. So I'm gonna get working on that. Oh, for those of you, I had to replace my laptop today because you guys helped me get a new laptop, some new equipment for the show. Bought a fucking laptop. The shit was just turning off randomly, and it was just getting worse. So I had to return it. Did a whole fucking thing today. Had a like factory reset the computer I had. Had to save whatever shit that I needed from it. Then I had to download everything over again, Streamlabs and fucking everything today. But I'm not complaining. I got it figured out. I got it fixed. And I was able to do the live stream tonight. So, like I said a million times earlier,